Welcome to another weekly episode here at REI Freedom. We have yet another great guest. I know you heard me say that before, but actually this guy is a awesome dude. My wife and I are huge fans. I can't wait to introduce him. Many of you guys listening here, at least locally up in our area, will know this guy. He's been around for quite a while. He's definitely doing some big things, making some waves. I love his story. I love his effort. I love his tenacity, his professionalism, his go-giver personality. We're going to talk about his story today and a little bit about what he's doing. And for you people who want to start fixing and flipping, but haven't started fixing and flipping, this is the guy. All right. This gentleman and his wife, Caitlin, started DeCandia Property Investments, LLC, back in January 2023. I don't know about you guys, but 2023, when the interest rates were sky high, not the greatest time to start real estate. But no fear with this guy. He is going to move forward regardless of timing, because guess what? The only great time to start real estate is today or yesterday. All right, so he has a primary focus on flipping residential, single, and small multifamily properties as a method of quickly building capital and escaping the W-2 rat race. Isn't that what we're all trying to achieve here? I love it. Today, they are currently working on their fifth consecutive full-scale renovation while working full-time W-2s. All right, so we're recording this October of 2024. It has been 12 plus 10, 22 months. He's already scaled 5 projects while working full-time. Sorry, how busy are you? What's your excuse to not getting into real estate? Okay. All right, by the way, this guy works overnight and works, his W-2s are overnight. He's on the job site all day long. I don't think he sleeps, but he is building his dream. Michael DeCandia is a power plant engineer, licensed general contractor, and realtor with Layer Realty Partners and Team Energy, and he is an active member of the Boston REIA and the New England REIA. Michael DeCandia, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on here. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm super pumped about this.
Mike and I are good friends. We talk quite a bit about a lot of different things, and there's a certain amount of people that I've seen come along the way, but there's certain people that just stick out. And I remember him doing his first project. I'm like, this guy's crazy. He's not going to make it work. And boy, was I so wrong. He did an amazing stuff on that first project that really opened my eyes. This big, experienced guy who's been flipping for years. I learned a lot from him on that first deal, and it was his first one. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. But Mike, before we get into your first deal, I'd like to have the audience know a little bit about who you are and how did you get into real estate to begin with? What brought you into this journey of real estate investing?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I guess I'll kind of stop back to the beginning. Real estate's kind of been on my mind for many, many years. Going back to 2011, actually, my wife and I bought our first primary residence at the age of 22. We had no idea what we were doing. We fully gutted a single family ranch, and we basically had to put it back together. We had to figure that out. So we did that with the resources of friends and family. And, I was a handy person in general, but did not have a lot of knowledge of renovating homes. So fast forward to 2017, we were outgrowing our first home and wanted to start a family. So, we were transitioning to our second home. We ended up selling that house for a profit of $175,000, which got reapplied directly into our second primary residence. But I remember at the time, the reason that's important is at the time, I remember telling my wife, we need to figure out how to make checks like that, but be able to keep them. And that would be the game changer. And that kind of was in the back of my head for many years. Didn't really know how to go about it. I wasn't aware of hard money, private money lending, other people's money, all sorts of different options. So that was in 2017. From then, I had really thought about, how do I get out of the rat race, and how do I really escape this W-2 life? I was very unsatisfied with what I was doing. Seen a lot of limits in my career potential, and just wasn't really happy with that. 2020, obviously COVID happened, and that was a big mindset shift for me. Like many people, things, times of uncertainty just kind of changes, your mindset. And for me, it was actually a blessing. I had a major mindset shift. I started reading books and listening to podcasts and, personal development, stuff like that. Somebody had recommended Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Sounds very stereotypical, but at the time I had no idea what that book even was. I decided to pick it up and read it. And from then on in, it was kind of a chase. I couldn't forget what I had read about, and I became even more unsatisfied with the life that I was living. And from then on in, it became a goal to figure out how to escape the rat race. So, fast forward 2022, I tried convincing my wife to sell our home. We were living in the house we live in now, which is our forever house, and I told her, we really need to sell this house so we can get all the equity out of it and start flipping houses. I was convincing enough that I actually did convince her, and we listed our forever home on the market, and it sat on the market for about 2 weeks and didn't sell. During that 2 weeks, it was a lot of second guessing, a lot of thinking, and really just contemplating, what was important and what was not. At that time, I was still interested in selling the house, and I was still in the mood to do what I was doing. But in those 2 weeks without it selling, I really had second doubts. And I went to my wife one day and I said, you know what? We're going to take the house off the market. We're not going to sell our house, and I'm going to pull a home equity line on the house, and I'm going to continue in the path that I originally wanted to continue. She was on board, and that was the path that we set down. So, fast forward to March of 2023, I started shopping on the MLS because I didn't know how else to find, off-market properties. And we purchased our first house in Tewksbury, Mass. So this house was heavily bid. There was 14 other bidders, high competition. We ended up bidding 15 grand over asking price. Won the bid. I thought that I was, a rock star. I thought I had it all figured out. So did a full gut renovation. I basically lived there for about 6 months. Did the entire renovation myself with family and friends. And when it came time to sell it, the house sat on the market for a few weeks. So that was, again, really second guessing myself, a lot of doubt, what am I doing? Why do I think I know how to do this and whatnot? And I have a family to provide for as well. So definitely a little scary. So that house did sell eventually. And we walked away with a small profit of about $17,000, which at the time was, almost like a loss really compared to the amount of expenses that we had put into that. So here I am, really second guessing myself. I got this property getting ready to come off my plate. Hadn't really made any money, and I was about almost a year into real estate investing. So really second guessing myself. I had a good friend of mine, a now very good friend of mine, Bernadette, who runs the Boston REIA group. And during this first flip, I had joined a REIA group, which I think is very important. And I started networking with all sorts of different investors in all sorts of different areas of the state. So she had come to me, just before the closing on this first flip. And she said, hey, I have another property off market, and it's in Tewksbury. I know you just did a flip in Tewksbury, and, I'm wondering if you're interested in it. So initially I had said no. And I told my wife, I said, I'm staying out of Tewksbury. I don't know what I'm doing. At the very least, I need to stay out of that town and try a different town. So I had thought about it for a little while, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go drive by that house. So I drove by the house on the way to work, and to my surprise, I kind of was interested in it. So I called Bernadette. I said, hey, when can I look at that house? So we looked at it the very next day, and I walked through it with my wife, and I said, how long do I have to think about this? And she said, well, we really need to know in a couple hours. So at that point, my wife and I, we made another leap, and we took a leap of faith, and we decided to purchase that property. Now, that property was our second flip, and that ended up being the game changer.
All right, time out there, because there's a lot to unpack. And before we get into the rest of the story, which is great, it's amazing. So, your wife and you are obviously on the same page with taking out something that's really scary. Like, you have equity in your home. Taking that out, and if you lose that, you're stuck paying that back forever, right? So there's no guarantee, right? Very risky.
That is correct.
At this point, you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but you haven't had any coaching programs. You're a general licensed contractor, but it's not like you've done a lot of renovations or rehabs or anything like that. So this was like all brand new to you. But you said, I'm going to take massive imperfect action. I'm going to figure it out as I go. And you made only $17K off that first flip and had a lot of self-doubts And that's normal. I don't care if you have a lot of success. We all still continue to have self-doubts. But 17K, granted, yeah, I mean, it's technically probably a loss in your head, but how much value, how much knowledge did you learn along that process of what you're capable of doing, mistakes you made, things you can improve going forward? You must have learned a lot in that process, right?
100%. It really opened up my eyes to, what I had already just been through and the direction I really needed to go in. And allowed me to really pivot in different directions and really sit back and evaluate the big picture. And at that point, I started networking a ton too. During that first flip, like I said, I had joined the REIA groups and been networking. I've been learning a lot. So when the second one came around, I pretty much knew that if I didn't do another one immediately, I might not.
Right.
And that actually scared me. That actually scared me more than losing money, really.
I love that.
Just proving to myself that I could do it.
Yeah, because you don't want to, if you don't, you're always going to be what if, what could have, right? And you're going to just think, man, it wasn't great. It wasn't a failure, but it wasn't what I wanted it to do. And what if I did that next one? What could have happened from that? And you would have had that self-doubt of not knowing what it could have been the end result, which obviously we'll get to here in this moment. But, there's a saying in this industry, like you're going to either pay to learn or you're going to pay through experiences, right? One way or another, this industry is going to make you pay for the knowledge you get. You can learn it the easy way or learn it the hard way. My case has been a lot of both. And I think that's common for most people. So, and I mean, at the end of the day, you still made a profit. So fantastic job. And you completed it, right? So although you're self-doubting yourself, hey, at least you can flip a house, right? That's something a lot of people want to do, but on TV they make it look a lot easier than the reality. So you join the local REIA. Bernadette is runs that REIA. She's also a wholesale and investor, and she finds this off-market property to you and wholesales it to you. You get the house. How did you fund the second one?
So I actually funded the second one entirely from a HELOC. So my first project, I had borrowed some hard money through a local lender, and that all worked out perfectly fine. Timeline and budget was fine. It's just that the market wasn't correct, and I didn't get the profit that I was hoping for.
Sure.
As far as the second one, I funded the entire thing with a HELOC. So we purchased this property at 285. And my HELOC was in excess of that, obviously. So I was able to purchase it with my HELOC, and I borrowed $100,000 of private money from a family member, actually.
Love it. Now that is resourceful, and that's a way to keep your costs down as well. All right, so you borrow money, you're borrowing from your HELOC, which is smart. You're borrowing from a family member private money, which is great because I'm sure your family member was very thrilled with the end result. You have some self-doubt going into this project, but you're like, screw it, I'm going to do it again. Just the Mike DeCandia way. Screw it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. And, you went into this project and you had kind of a different vision of, I think, what a lot of people did. Although you bid over asking for this, which a lot of times doesn't really work out too well when you're bidding over asking. Right? Is this the house? No, that was the previous house that you bid over asking.
The first house was the one that we did bid over. We did bid over asking.
So, so this one you buy from the wholesaler. You're having some self-doubt, but you charge ahead. You do it, but you had a little bit of a vision of adding some extra value in this house. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we had quite a bit of value adds to this house. So, like I said, we purchased this house at 285. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home with a completely unfinished basement that was finishable. So I recognized that right away. We also bought this house without a water service, so they had actually cut off the water to the house, and there was no line going from the street to the house. So that was a challenge too, especially purchasing the house in October with the winter months coming. So we decided to convert this house from a 2-bedroom, 1-bath to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we did that by finishing the entire basement. So we gained a little over 400 square feet. We gained a whole bedroom, a whole bathroom. Added a second means of egress in the whole nine. Meanwhile, we renovated the entire rest of the house, soup to nuts, and we sold that house for $640,000. We had more than 200 people come through the open house.
200 people, a little different than the first one, huh?
Like much different. I mean, my first house, I think we had a total of 9 people look at the house. The second house, we had 200 people actually sign into the sign-in sheet.
It's incredible.
So that one was a home run. That one was a testament to, purchasing the home at the right price and taking advantage of forced appreciation, if you will.
Yeah.
And we made out with a profit after everything, in our pocket of $204,000.
Amazing.
So that was
200.
major.
Well, can't gloss over that. You made a profit of $204,000.
That
right?
is correct.
Most people don't even make that in a few years of their W-2. You made that in one deal. So you basically left this first flip. I don't think I want to do this anymore. Never mind flipping the same town. Screw Tewksbury. I hate it. $17,000. I don't know if I'm made out for this. I want to do it, but I don't know. But I'm going to go to the same town, do another house, and then make $204,000. I mean, that's a $185,000 swing. $190,000 swing. What is the difference between the first house and the second house? Why did you have such a very different outcome?
Simply put, I had the ability to add forced appreciation through the addition of a bedroom, bathroom, and a basement. But more importantly, the house was bought at the right price. So, you hear all the time the most important thing is buying the house at the right price. Your money's made when you buy the house. And that's 100% true. Looking back at the first flip that I did, I didn't have any way to really force appreciation other than a full gut renovation. And that really only provides so much value. I was very green at the time, and I was under the impression that you could, purchase a house for X amount of money, put X amount into it, and then you should get, X amount plus profit on the other end. And that's just simply not true.
So it goes to show you, overpaying on the MLS is not the way to success in this industry, but having good relationships and finding a way, an ability to get deals off market yields a different result.
100%, a significant different result.
I love that. And another thing that I want to mention, so you probably heard me say this a lot, Mike, and a lot of the content that I put out is, when it comes to wholesalers bringing deals to the table, right? Everybody's like, a lot of the cash buyers are like, you need to understand a rehab amount. You need to understand how much these numbers work, right? So if I'm a wholesaler and I look at this house as a 2-1, and, I may say, the ARV is $500,000 is a 2-1, and it's going to be, I don't know, $100,000 in rehab. And I don't even know the numbers of a rehab, but I'm just saying $100,000 in rehab, right? So I'm like, well, 285, I get 15 grand. Somebody buys it at 300. Maybe they make money on this, right? But all buyers have different, ways of generating revenue, because this wasn't a 400 or a 500 ARV. This was like a 600 ARV, and you were able to turn this into a 3-2 from a 2-1, right? So I guess my point is, as a wholesaler, for you guys listening who wholesale, this is a perfect example. You don't need to know the numbers. You don't need to figure out what buyers are going to do, because Mike just told you he was thinking about renovating this downstairs. Maybe some other people were, but a lot of people were probably just going to renovate this as a 2-1 and just move on as a quick flip, right? He thought, well, hey, if we, add a second thing of egress, a second form of egress in the basement, and turn it into and tie it back into the public sewer, and we turn this into a 3-2, we could pull out a ton of value, which is amazing for him. But as a wholesaler, you would never, ever know what somebody's strategy is. So you could figure out all the costs in the world you want, but you'd be completely off in this situation. And a lot of buyers may have walked away from maybe a wholesaler not knowing the numbers. But in your case, Mike, you see things very differently, and you were able to force a ton of value into this house and made this into a home run. Outstanding. And I know you've done that a couple more times since this house.
I have, yes. I guess another interesting story to share. Just after this one, I had brought an opportunity in the city to look at another single family home that had been a probate situation. And some investors that I'm friendly with had been in the probate process under contract on this home for several months. And I had offered to partner with them on the rehab part of it, right? So it had gotten to the point where they were actually getting ready to sign a purchase and sale agreement that day. So part of that agreement was I told them I would go by and I would give them my honest input on the house before they signed their P&S, right? And at this point, I wasn't even involved in the situation. I was really just providing my services
as a friend
with my construction background, and then I was going to present that to them and see if it made sense for them to partner with me on it as another investor. So, in that process, I was doing a home inspection on that property that day, and like I said, they were signing a P&S that afternoon, and I was crawling around the attic, and I got very curious. I'm a very thorough person, and something caught my eye that just didn't seem right. And as I started, pulling the attic apart, I realized that the entire attic had caught on fire. So what we ended up finding out through more research on my part was that this entire house had caught on fire, and what they did was they just boarded up the walls and they tried to cover it up. So the fire department didn't know about it. The city didn't know about it. It was like an undocumented house fire. So at that point, everyone had kind of walked away from the situation. They didn't really want to deal with it. It ended up being, more like a tear down. Long story short, I put an offer in on that house, counted back and forth a couple times, and we were able to purchase that property for $150,000. I sat through that probate process for about 3 months, I believe. And when I finally closed on that, I resold it 15 days later for a profit of $175,000.
All right, so let's just break this down for our audience here. So I'm going to buy a house off the MLS because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I want to be a real estate investor. I want those $175,000 checks for myself. I'm going to go flip a house. I make a measly $17K, big failure. I'm never going to do this again, but I don't know, maybe. All right, F it. I'm going to do it one more time. Holy smokes, I made $204K. Then I get into another deal situation, help out a friend. Turns out that I'm actually going to buy the house myself. I sell it for 15 days later, and you made how much? 100 and what?
We made $175,000 before we paid out some of our team.
So $175,000. So in $17,000 on your first flip. Your next two deals bring in $380,000 in gross profits before you're paying out your team. That is like more money than most people make in some people don't make that in like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. I mean, that's a lot of game-changing money, and you almost would have never done any of it if you didn't go forward with that second opportunity, which you almost walked away from.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I mean, the second property, when Bernadette had asked me if I was interested, I almost immediately said no.
Right.
And then before I got off the phone, it was, the whole conversation was a no. And before I got off the phone, I was like, you know what, I'll go drive by it on the way to work tonight, because I was working an overnight shift that night. And that's kind of how that happened. But it really is about taking massive imperfect action, like you're a big advocate for. You're the first person I honestly heard say that, and it's kind of stuck with me. And that's really the ingredient, is taking massive imperfect action and having confidence in yourself.
Yeah, because, along the way, Mike, you're probably going to have some more 17K flips down the road, right? It's just inevitable.
100%.
You may even lose money on a deal, right? It's not a perfect science. I know you're a realtor. I know you're a general contractor. I know you're an investor. And I'm not saying this in any disrespect, but you're probably not amazing at any specific one. But, you know enough to just take action. And honestly, you as an engineer, I think this is probably more challenging for you than most people, because you come from a background where you really want to know everything before moving forward. So you could be the type of person that really could have analysis paralysis because it's so uncertain, but you overcame a lot of that and said, I'm going to figure it out. And obviously it served you very well.
That's exactly true. 100% correct. I could plan historically. I could plan myself right out of taking action by just being too obsessed and thorough.
And now
but it really is about taking massive imperfect action.
Yeah, because you never know, right? And there's always a little bit of risk and a chance, and your risk is paid off. I mean, $380,000 in 2 deals. I mean, that's amazing, Mike. That's incredible. So as we wrap up this podcast, what's the future look for the DeCandia Property Real Estate Investment Group? How are we looking? You're about to list your 5th deal, your 5th flip now.
Yeah, we're we're listing our fourth flip
Okay, fourth.
next week,
Yep.
a week from today, actually. Probably when this airs, we'll be listing that. And we also have a large-scale renovation going on up in Groveland, Mass,
That's right.
which is a massive historical restoration project, which is going to be really cool. But as far as the future goes, my short-term goals are to start acquiring my own off-market properties, and the way I plan on doing that is through your coaching program. To be totally honest with you, that's been on my radar for a long time. But that's my next step, is to try to provide consistency for myself and prove to myself that I am capable of finding my own properties off market. That's going to be, I think, pivotal in the future of our business. And what I want to do with that is I want to continue to flip houses, build capital. I want to be able to, quote unquote, cherry pick, if you will. I want to acquire multifamily properties to start building a portfolio for my family, as well as possibly wholesaling and stuff like that too. So
I love it.
That's kind of the short and long term goals.
Well, I know you, Mike. There's no doubt you're going to succeed at them at a high level, and I can't wait to be part of that journey and watch that journey. As I said, Shelly and I are big fans, so I have no doubt in your success. So a few more questions as we wrap this up, Mike. So knowing what you know now, what would you give somebody who just read Rich Dad Poor Dad and is on the outside looking in, wants to flip a house, wants to get into wholesaling, wants to just start real estate investing, but doesn't know what to do, how to do it, or is afraid? Knowing what you know now, what would you give somebody for advice in that situation?
I would say network as much as possible. Read books, podcasts, all that stuff. There's so much value on the internet nowadays. I'm a very obsessive person, and that really plays a huge role in this, because I can really just entrench myself in this material on the internet. Coaching programs are huge. It's something you hear about all the time. It's something that's been on my radar for more than a year now, and I'm trying to get my head on straight, if you will, to find the time to devote strictly to that, because I am an all or nothing person, and I can't go into something when I'm too busy with other things. So I think coaching and networking is pivotal. Joining a REIA group, Real Estate Investing Association group, that has been a game changer for me. I've met, my great friend Bernadette now, my entire realtor team that I'm on. A lot of them are part of that network. It's just really, building your own network, your own family, and trying to put yourself out there.
I love it. So, Mike, if people want to reach out to you and follow you and, pick your brain on certain things, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very active on Instagram. I try to document my flips from start to finish, and engage with everybody, on those. So at DeCandia _property_investments. Same with Facebook, DeCandia Property Investments LLC. My phone number, by all means, shoot me a text, send me a call, 781-443-2464. I'm always available.
He's a great guy, guys, and we'll put all that in the show notes. All right, the last question, the infamous question, Mike, I ask a lot of people at the end of this episode what REI freedom means to them. I want to know what it means to Mr. DeCandia.
All right. Yeah, so REI freedom to us is the ability to create a life where we put our family before our career, with the freedom to be present during all the times that matter the most. Equally as important to that is the ability to build wealth for the future generations of our family. Speaking for myself, I missed the first 5 Christmases of my daughter's life due to my W-2. And that's a constant reminder that every day I'll push forward and not turn back in that direction.
I love that. That's great motivation, because you can never get that back. You can always make more money, but you can never go back and get that time back.
Money is the tool and time is the goal.
I love it. Great words. Well, Mike, thanks so much for being on this week's episode. Tons of value for our listeners, and all the continued success for you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. It's been a pleasure, as always.
All right, guys, that's it here at the weekly episode of REI Freedom Podcast. Mike DeCandia, what an amazing guest and what a great story and so much great information. If you too want to join the coaching program like Mike DeCandia will once he's all in, baby, go to reifreedom.com/apply. You can book a discovery call with yours truly. In the meantime, feel free to join our Facebook group at Off Market Real Estate Freedom Fighters. We are going to be doing monthly masterclass. Matter of fact, we're recording this on a night we have a PPC masterclass tonight. So always great value. And as always, guys, if you can continue to support us here on this podcast, we appreciate it. Until next time, see you then.